we started, so I promised you a gift, right? So I love zombies so much that I actually I have a zombie Western comic that's out. It's called Deadskins, and it's pretty crazy. And I just want to give you guys a digital comp, okay? So all you need to do, you can do it now, you can do it during hot docs. You go to friedcomics.com/hotdocs. And then you get your free comic. So again, that's fried, as in, fried food. friedcomics.com/hotdogs. The other thing I want to tell you is the film is going to get distribution here in Canada. Yeah, thanks to Kino Smith. And so that means that actually starting now, people can, your friends, wherever they are, can actually get it on iTunes right now. And then it will actually come out in theaters in June. So that's it, right, Robin? Yeah? Yep. Okay. So there's one person I want to bring on stage with me, Thea, Munster. Do you want to come? Now? Okay. So Thea created this Toronto zombie walk, and she's in the film. So deserves a big hand. And I want to say thank you, by the way, to all the zombies who are here today. You guys are awesome. So.
Hi. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Hey.
Okay, well, let's start us off.
Yeah.
First of all, tell us, how did you gather all of these film legends to be in this film?
It was interesting because we got a call actually from Jonathan in London at Geekscape that there was a possibility that we would interview Simon Pegg, and we weren't quite ready to start, working on the film. And then of course, if Simon Pegg's available, he was actually working on the new Star Trek movie, so he was in LA, and we were like, okay, fine, let's just go to LA and we'll talk to Simon. And then thanks to a festival contact that I had from France, we got the opportunity to we drove from Denver to Toronto to interview George Romero. And then we also interviewed you the next day. And so we had those 3 interviews, and then we were like, okay, well, this is kind of what I do. I always like to start, even if I don't have the budget just yet, because then I have no option but to finish, So, and I think it made things a lot easier to be able to say, we talked to George Romero, we talked to Simon Pegg, would you like to be, part of the film? So, and then we organized this big, zombie town hall meeting that you guys saw in the film. It was about 3.5 minutes of it, I think, with Max Brooks, George Romero, and Steve Schlossman. That was the first time ever that they were actually on stage together, so that was pretty cool. That was in Denver during the film festival there. So. Yeah. Okay.
While he's walking to the audience member, I would like to know.
Yeah.
You've been working on this for a few years, so were you worried about this zombie bubble bursting? People kind of getting over zombies?
I was. I think I had too many other things on my mind to worry about it, because I was still finishing People vs. George. I was working on, then I had to do my. By the way, there's a middle movie called The Life and Times of Paul the Psychic Octopus. It's kind of the second part of that pop culture trilogy. There will be many pop culture trilogies, I'm here to tell you. This is not the end of it by any stretch of the imagination. But, so I was working on that, and thankfully, really Walking Dead came along in a big way, and then World War Z, the movie, was announced. So I'm glad I kind of waited, because if I had started that film back in 2010, I think I would have missed, that big wave. So, but I mean, Thea, what do you think? Do you think we've peaked, or do you think we're not quite there yet?
The dead don't end. They just go on and on. Yeah. It doesn't end.
Well, what do you think we're going to see next?
I would like to see. Was it?
Is there a weird spot here or something?
It's the cursed spot there.
Okay, now that the mic's not working, but. Or it is. Yes, it is. Okay, sorry. Go for it.
I think it's going to have a whole turnaround where it's more zombie films based on social commentary again, instead of zombie films being about shooting zombies. And just all the discussion and talk about zombies is just going to just gonna keep going and growing and actually build the zombie community. That's what I would like to see.
And then there's stuff like Zombievers, right? Just coming out. There's that too. So, just saying, you know.
Okay, we have a question from the audience.
How worried are you personally about a realistic zombie apocalypse? And as Canadians, should we be more worried about the zombies or the highly armed Americans flooding across our border?
That's a great question. No, I'm not worried. I mean, look, I am worried that something like Ebola could, you know, there could be an outbreak. I'm not really worried that, you know, people are going to start eating each other. And if they do, I mean, look, then that's it. I mean, we're done, you know. So I will plainly say I will shoot myself in the head. That's it.
Question on the balcony.
Oh, balcony, okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Two-part question. What inspired you to make this movie? And what message do you think you want to give to your audience?
Okay. So, well, I mean, the inspiration again is, you know, if you guys know some of my work, I'm obsessed with pop culture. And so I really look at trends in pop culture. And when something starts getting a lot of traction, like zombies did, my immediate impulse is to figure out what is going on, and therefore to make a movie about it. So that's really the impulse. And so when you say message to the audience, and what kind of, you mean what is the message of the film? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I don't know if there's a message. I think the question is, again, it's to me the one question I wanted to explore is why are zombies so popular now? In order to answer that question, you have to go back in the past. You have to look at, you know, what were the milestones in zombie history that led to where we are today. I think that what we have is a very fragmented answer. There's not one thing that we can say that's the reason why, you know. And I think that's cool, you know. I mean, that's what I like about this, is that we can talk about it. We can walk out of this theater and we can geek out about it. We can go have a beer and we can argue and we can think about what are some of the reasons. At the end of the day, this is what pop culture does. You can't quite put your finger on it, but I think it's a little bit of, you know, everything that's been discussed in the film. It's fun. It's a reaction to very dark times. It's, you know, a way to exercise our fear of death. It's, you know, I love it when, you know, Sarah Laurel actually, you know, creates this parallel between, you know, zombie walks and, you know, like, you know, Occupy Wall Street or the Arab Spring, you know, this idea that it's a tacit message to our government. I mean, that's an interesting reading of it. But also this idea that it's just, you know, we're all craving to connect, you know, with other people. And that because we're not doing it so much in real life anymore, we feel so alienated from each other, that, you know, a zombie walk is a very beautiful sort of community event. You know, I mean, well, Thea actually would probably be able to say something about that.
Yeah, well, for me, it's all about community. Zombies are, we're not, it's me. It's something on my coat, it's the blood, it's the eyes, I don't know what it is. But I just think zombies have a sense of community about them, and if you've ever been to the zombie walk, you'll want to keep coming back again and again, because it's just a unique thing where you don't even have to talk to anyone, but you walk together, and it's just a feeling of, I'm walking with people who are from completely different, all different walks of life, all different walks of death, and we're all taking part in something together, and it's very unique. Like, I have people that are 60, I have people that are 2 years old, and everyone kind of loves it. It's strange.
Yeah, and you know, actually, I really want to say something about this because I think this is really important. And you know, I'm as I've said, you know, pop culture is kind of my life's mission, to try and make people understand why it matters. And this is why it matters: is that pop culture actually brings us together. You know, in ways that, you know, we still haven't figured out. I think in the, you know, the quote-unquote important things in life, how to make this work. You know, you go to San Diego Comic-Con and you have different fans of different, you know, cultures, different franchises, and there's a tremendous amount of respect and goodwill across the board. And I'm like, why can't we do this when we talk politics? why can't we do this when it comes to religion? Why do we have to constantly see on the news stuff that just tears us apart and reminds us that we're so different, when in fact we're not? I think pop culture reminds us that we are actually all pretty much alike. So I think that's why it matters so much.
Question from the audience?
I noticed that, except for Shaun of the Dead and a passing reference to Dr. Caligari, almost everything in your movie was American. Is it your thesis that zombies are a particular reflection of the downfall of the American Empire? Or was your focus on that? Because there are interesting zombie movies. I mean, I saw one out of Cuba, which was, very critical of Castro. There's been some Japanese stuff, some French stuff. Why did you focus exclusively, or almost exclusively, on American?
Okay, so that's a really good question. And I think the larger question to that really is why did you include what you included, and why did you exclude all these wonderful zombie films? And that's kind of a two-part answer. The first part is budget. Licensing is extraordinarily expensive. We had only $100,000 to license, stuff. And that goes like this. It goes very, very fast, and we had to actually, jump through. I don't even want to tell you how many hoops we had to jump through in order to get the amount of footage that we got in this film. So that's part of it. The other part of it is, again, you have to go back to what is this film about, right? The premise of the film is to look at what are the events in zombie cinematic history or literature, or whatever the case may be, that led us to where we are today. And so, yeah, sure, I had to leave Fulci out, I had to leave, Juan of the Dead, I had to leave, Dead Snow, and all of these movies, which are wonderful. I'm a huge fan of Fido, Canadian zombie film. It's one of my top 5 zombie films of all time. Phenomenal stuff, but at the end of the day, they are not part of that sort of big, I didn't have the luxury to have 5 hours about zombie, movie histories leading to where we are today. So, yeah, I hope that answers it, you know what I mean? But yeah, those are great movies.
We have time for a couple more questions.
Yeah.
While the mic is walking.
Okay.
I have a question for both of you.
Yeah.
After doing all this research and interviewing all of these people, do you think that you've gotten down to the root of why people just love zombie films? Why the zombie fans are just so prominent?
Because it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I will agree with you on this. I think back on when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old and I saw, Night of the Living Dead for the first time, and it just got to me, in a very profound way. And you can overthink. It's very easy to kind of come up with all these theories and deconstruct and ask yourself why. But at the end of the day, I think yes, it's fun. But my pet theory is that, again, being a zombie, even though I've never been one, and obviously you have been many, many times, but I feel like it's kind of this, this dress rehearsal for this one thing we're going to be one day, which is death. And so again, it's a way to maybe exercise that fear, to say, it's okay. And if you look back at 1968, Night of the Living Dead was probably the most terrifying movie that's out there, right? Since then, we have made, we have these kind of kids movies, we can make fun of zombies, we see them in a Sprint commercial, and and it's fun. So it's a way to sort of domesticate that fear, I think. Yeah.
I think I have to add more to that. I feel like when I first saw zombies, I always kind of related to the monster in life, because they were always back in the day, the monsters were always the outcast, and they didn't mean harm, but people thought of them as meaning harm. And then I saw zombies and I was like, here's a group of monsters that works together to feed on human flesh. And I thought, wow, that's really cool, a group of monsters, and they're all different, yet they all kind of work together. And I think it's that feeling of community again that I see in zombies.
Yeah, I mean, and just one more thing here, Scott Brown talks about zombies being the nerds and the geeks, and I will even go one step further and say zombies are kind of the everyman, of monsters, and I think that's why we can all, to a certain extent, see ourselves at least some kind of cinematic zombie that's out there.